welcome to Mojo for Industry, India's first mobile journalism platform for industry. India is doing fairly well in terms of vaccination for COVID-19, and the government targets to vaccinate every single adult by the end of this year. Also, we are gearing up for vaccination to children. However, it is being predicted that the country will not have enough syringes for the COVID-19 vaccines we want to give. If no immediate corrective measures are taken, this can certainly derail India's COVID-19 vaccination program. To throw some light on the ongoing alarming situation, today we are joined by Mr. Rajiv Nath, the Chairman and Managing Director of Hindustan Syringes and Medical Devices Limited, India's largest syringe manufacturer. He is also the President of All India Syringes and Needles Manufacturer Association and Forum Coordinator of the Association of Indian Medical Device Industry. So to start with, Mr. Nath, can you give us a brief overview of the demand-supply scenario for auto-disable syringes that are used for COVID-19 vaccination?
Well, briefly, I would say that until last month, there was not an issue. But yes, now that the manufacturing capacity for vaccines by Serum Institute has grown rapidly since last 2 months, and from this month onwards, they are confident to supply 200 million vaccine dosages every month, we are told, and another 5 million coming in from Covaxin. So with that, definitely the demand definitely is going up. And then there'll be others also where you might be getting the approval shortly, like Johnson Johnson and biological events. So yes, the supply pool is now increasing for vaccines and now overtaking the production for the auto-disable syringes. So currently, my company alone makes about 90 million auto-disable syringes every month, which will be taking up to 100 million by next month. There are other suppliers also in the country who are supplying to Government of India for these kind of syringes, and also government is importing from China. At the same time, considering this demand-supply gap, the fallback option for the country is to use disposable syringes. So even the standard 0.5 ml, 1 ml, or the 2 ml, or the 3 ml standard disposable syringes, which were being used already in the private healthcare, this is the fallback option that the government can use. The association has got more than 20 members who make disposable syringes in the country. All of them put together have more than a capacity of 500 million syringes per month, which is much more than what is really required. And typically around 30 to 50% of this capacity is usually idle. But yes, to gear up the capacity, there had been no early alarm bells raised, so manufacturers were reading newspaper stories or making their own risk-based assessments of capacity utilization or capacity increase. But now in June, July, when the government has taken out a tender for AD syringes and then another one for disposable syringes, and started placing orders with 15 manufacturers for disposable syringes in addition to AD syringes. So now, matter of time that the manufacturers will ramp up capacity to meet this demand.
Okay, it's learned that the government has not given enough attention to place the order for syringes, though your fraternity has tried to reach out to them to ask them to place the orders on time. Am I right?
Yes, we had been raising this forewarning to the government since last April, and then again in October only last year, the government did respond to us and take the first meeting with us, and in December started placing orders with us. And in April this year, we again contacted the government that the orders with the existing manufacturers are only till September. So what is the demand beyond September is not clear. And the government reverted to us in June and then placed additional orders with some of us in June as add-on orders from the existing tenders. And then in July, suddenly we got the clarity that yes, the government is needing definitely more syringes between September and December. And for that, they started placing additional orders with the existing suppliers. And when they found that their tenders were not being responded to adequately, then they sought the help of UNICEF in sourcing these syringes internationally, as well as uh, finding donations for these products to come to the country. And we told the government not to worry, it's still not too late, and the fallback option is disposable syringes. You can always go for that. And then they had called a tender for 900 million disposable syringes or reuse prevention syringes, any kind of syringe which could be used for COVID vaccination. They had welcomed the bids for that. And subsequently, the government has placed orders for that also. But it does take time to import components like needles, because except HMD, most other companies do not make these needles themselves. They buy from other suppliers, and then you also have to import packaging materials or rubber gaskets for some manufacturers for making the syringes. And this, of course, cannot be done in a week's time or 2 weeks' time. You need some months of preparation for that. So yes, the short term, there is a mismatch, but yes, given some time, this can be managed.
So you mean to say the situation is not that alarming as of now, but if we don't give particular attention to that particular aspect as of now, then it may create a problem.
Yes, normally, like I mentioned to you, would have also not been a problem had the situation been that this was possibly may not have been the peak demand for syringes. Normally between June and October every year, the demand normally spikes. Last year, actually, it fell. The non-COVID demand was falling. So people had actually burned their fingers, rolled back capacities, and reduced manpower. This year, after April, the non-COVID demand is again spiking. So had that spike not been there, the manufacturers would have been more than happy to find a good buyer in the government to supply this. So when the government possibly reviewed in January this year, that time there was a huge surplus capacity available. And maybe that time the government thought that nothing to worry about. But it's a dynamic market, and you have to keep on having quarterly reviews. And we've been seeking these reviews on an ongoing basis, not only with syringe manufacturers, but also with the vaccine makers, that the syringe makers, vaccine makers need to talk to each other and to the government, so that we know what kind of drug delivery requirements are there, because many drugs or vaccines require specialized syringes. And typically vaccine makers don't buy these syringes from us and supply with these vaccines. They focus on vaccine making, we focus on syringe making. It's the government who does the procurement and does the balancing of the supplies for the syringes, matching it with the vaccine requirement. So if it's an oral vaccine, they'll buy droppers or they'll buy oral syringes. If it's for intradermal injections, they will buy a 0.1 ml syringe. If it's for an intramuscular injection, they'll buy a 0.5 ml syringe. So it all depends on the kind of vaccine. Like for the Pfizer vaccine internationally, nobody in the world was realizing that they'll be requiring a 0.3 ml syringe. And only in November last year, WHO, UNICEF, and we came to know that they need a 0.3 ml syringe, and everybody was scurrying for that kind of a syringe. And within 4 weeks' time, we were able to develop the initial product and get it approved by WHO, PQS for that. But then to ramp up the capacity to large volume production still took us 6 months' time. And only a few months back, we started supplying to UNICEF and to WHO PAHO in South America, this specialized syringes, say about 10 million syringes per month, which is compared to 0.5 ml syringes, still very small capacity for us.
When it comes to making Indian manufacturers informed and putting the placing the order in place on time, and also at the same time helping the manufacturers to build up their capacities to be able to produce or deliver the syringes required in the near future. Exactly what went wrong? Is it a kind of a bureaucratic failure or red tapeism? How do you describe that?
Well, yes, this has been quite disappointing experience, because we've seen that also in the other product lines. The government wakes up a bit too late, I would say. And when the people are normally involved, then they would normally be seeking tenders which are quite unrealistic. So having a tender for 100 crores AD syringes to be given in 4 months' time with 2 weeks notice period to bid for it, and then following it up with another tender for disposable syringes for 90 crore pieces. It's an assumption that people are like waiting to give this, and this quantity is nothing much to talk about. it seems that the people in the government are unaware about what the capacities of the country are, or what is available as spare capacities for the government to buy. And then what the discussions take place normally at the procurement agency level, typically is like a micromanagement or for the particular tender clauses, payment terms, what is required for ease of doing business, but it is not looking at things in a holistic manner. Now, this is the pandemic. It's not like buying 300 million syringes every year for the children vaccination and then adjusting it by 20, 50 million pieces plus minus for a particular tender. Here you're talking about buying the same number of syringes every month. And that kind of clearly articulated demand has never come to us from the government ever. There's never been a white paper, there's never been a meeting which has clearly articulated demand from us. It's always been assumptions. So from our side, we have proactively sought this year, April, as recently as middle of September, I wrote to the government and asked, we have only an order for 75 million syringes for next year. Can we know what is the additional quantity required between January and March next year? And between April 2022 till March 2023 financial year, what is the demand for these syringes? Now, India definitely does come first, and as HMD, we would like to supply to India first. And I would say same for other manufacturers in the association. But yes, one must realize that if the government is not going to come forward, and if other buyers come to us, then we cannot be waiting until the last day to say no to them. And once we pick up the business internationally, these are long-term orders, long-term commitments. And typically, whether it's UNICEF, WHO, PAHO, even a Japanese government or a Brazilian government, if they're placing tenders or orders, they give us a time period of 3 months minimum to 1 year as advance notices to go forward, because they do know that people may not have spare capacities available. And once we have picked up that business, so out of 1 billion capacity which we have created this year, suppose the government says I'm going to buy 200 million, then we can say you can take 800 million between UNICEF and WHO. But tomorrow we give 800 million to WHO and UNICEF, and then government of India comes in January and says, no, we want 600 million pieces and please cancel their orders. That is bad for the image of the country as an undependable supply source. It becomes a bad image for a company as ours, as an individual company. And going forward, we will never be welcomed again for such large-term tenders. It's taken us years to build these relationships and this credibility. Now, India has looked at the second largest source for syringes internationally as a manufacturing hub now, and after China. So this is not something that has been done only last year, 1 year's COVID time, like masks or PPE kits. This has been done over 20 years time period. So we would not like to see this image being tarnished. Brand India is going to get tarnished, not somebody MNC's brand name under whose brand I'm going to be supplying the product, and whom I may say force majeure clause is not applicable and sorry, I put up my hands.
You mean to say you have already been the forum coordinator for All India Medical Equipment Devices, as well as the president of All India Association for Syringes and Needle Manufacturers. You have approached the government and took proactive measures to inform them to put the orders on time, but they have not given any attention. That's what you mean to say, sir? Yes, we have tried to preempt this. We've tried to forewarn it. We find it very disheartening that we've been heard internationally. People responded outside of India, but not within India. The elephant wakes up in India always a bit too late. So you have a situation where you have the bullets now, but no guns to fire them. And this was completely avoidable. Now, since last few days, we have been writing letters to various people in the government, ministers, senior bureaucrats, health secretary himself, cabinet secretary, etc. And the government has been responsive. And today, clarification was taken up by the government that we will not be banning exports. It's only a restriction. It won't be for 4 months. It'll be for 3 months. It won't be for all sizes of syringes. It'll only be for the syringes which can be used for COVID vaccination. So the syringes which are not going to be used for COVID vaccination, the large syringes, say 5 cc and above,
or the insulin syringes or the 0.3 ml syringes used for Pfizer vaccine, those can be freely exported because they're not needed for this campaign. So at least I would say nearly 60% of what was the supply chain internationally, which was being disrupted, at least that 60% can be resumed. Now it's a question of negotiating with the government on the balance 40%. And for that, we had been seeking that if at least half can be allowed to be continued to go on the basis of what we've been supplying last year. So at least, yes, we understand rationing is required, so that can be rationing to go at 50% level, but don't make it suddenly like zero, even for the children vaccine. We had been seeking support, like support by the PLI scheme. The PLI scheme the government had announced for the high-end medical devices. Yes, that is required by the country, but we have been seeking that this may be considered in COVID times for the 50-odd COVID-related critical medical devices like PPE kits and masks. May not be subsidies, but at least recognition for the manufacturers who step forward, at least some support. We're not going to be getting that return on the investment for many years. Whatever profits we're going to be getting on the sales of the syringes, if I sell 100 crores worth of syringes, if I make 10% profits, I get 10 crore rupees. There is 10 crore rupees profits and there is 100 crore rupees investment. You would take nearly 10 years time to recover that investment.
Thank you so much for this interview, Mr. Nath. Hope the Indian government will find out suitable resolutions for the concerns you raised, and this will bring India's COVID-19 vaccination program back on track. And at the same time, the steps taken by the government will make India truly Atmanirbhar in the field of medical equipment devices manufacturing. Take care and stay safe. Wish you a happy Navratri. Please don't forget to subscribe our YouTube channel and press the bell icon.